Well, Superman has his fortress of solitude, and Bruce Wayne, he's got the Bat Cave, and me, the Menzoid, I've got the Menzoid Man Cave, a place to sit back, chill out, talk about the issues of the day, and I'm very happy to have back in the Man Cave Simon Kent, Toronto Sun columnist extraordinaire. How you doing,
Thank
Simon?
you. As always, I'm sure the pleasure's all yours.
It is indeed, especially when you're here. I wish it was under better circumstances, Simon. An issue that you've covered extensively in the Toronto Sun, you've done some great columns about it, and that was the whole debate about attracting a big league casino to Toronto. That is dead. The man that headed up the OLG, the Ontario Lottery Gaming Corporation, Paul Godfrey, was fired last week by Premier Wynne. And but looking at this in sort of a post-mortem sense, Simon, what was fascinating about the casino was that even though it was going to bring 10,000 jobs into the city, 3,000 really nice paying construction jobs, thousands of ancillary jobs, it was framed as a good versus evil kind of thing.
It was a morality tale, wasn't it? And I'm astounded. Why was it a morality tale when it really is a business decision? It's a commercial decision for the city and for the province to make, because there's so many manifest benefits that can be extracted from a casino. You don't have to approve of gambling per se, but you can say it goes on, let's legalise it, let's put it somewhere, and think of some of the benefits that can come out of it. You can have a convention centre, because Toronto has to compete with conventions with big cities all around the world. Right. It has to provide jobs, and this province can't afford to say no to a potential $50, $60, $70 million a year that could come from a hosting fee. I mean, that's nuts. And in a way, the whole thing was debated to death. It was talked to death, and I think the poor idea of a casino, which just ran out of oxygen in the end, it was smothered because it got talked to death. But I think the benefits got lost in the debate somehow.
And you know, it's very important, Simon, that this was going to be tied into, I hate to use this term, but I will, world-class convention facility.
I know, what does that mean, world-class?
But we don't have one. We don't have one that competes with what convention people have in Chicago, New York, and Toronto loses convention
And it's
business.
not just locally, it's on the world scene,
Yes.
because these big international conferences, you're competing with cities like London, with Madrid, with San Francisco. You're competing with cities like Singapore and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, with Sydney in Australia, Melbourne. All those cities I just mentioned, by the way, do have casinos, and they have big casinos. You're not always aware of them. Like in central London, you'd be hard pressed to find where the casinos are, because they're much more low scale. But
certainly the zombie apocalypse hasn't set in because of the casino.
No, that's right. And I've been to Singapore, one of the most socially conservative places on earth. It's a city-state of 4.5, 5 million people, very much similar to Toronto in size. They don't just have one casino in Sentosa Island. They have two massive casinos. And this is Singapore, which is so conservative. What they do is they acknowledge this exists, they legalise it and tax the hell out of it. I mean, there is an argument that says gambling is a tax on the poor anyway, but rich and poor people go to these places and gamble. And it's not the end of the world.
And it comes down to the will of the individual, whether he or she is going to gamble or not.
Well, that's right. And in Toronto, though, as you said before, this whole thing has been framed by the nature of good and evil. I can't think of anywhere else in the world that would have this sort of conversation. I really can't.
Simon, also, let's talk about the hypocrisy involved. What I found interesting during the debate, there was a coalition of religious leaders that came out saying gambling is a sin. Oh, excuse me, these aren't the same people running church bingos, are they? I mean, I know maybe bingo is on a smaller scale than roulette, but that's still a cash reward business. And also the people of that run Exhibition Place, where the convention and casino were going to go.
I don't think they like the idea of competition, maybe.
But this was the thing. They said this would destroy the nature or the character of the fair. When they run their own, for 20 years they've been running a casino there that actually opens before the fair does.
And then you have Woodbine as well. I mean, there's racing there in the form of horses, and there's slots there, and they say it's going to hurt their business. But who in business is ever given a right to survive or given a certainty? You have to compete, and if they can't compete, if a big Toronto casino went downtown, well, they can't compete. Now you have places like Markham is lining up. They'd like to have a slice of this. Maybe it could go there. And I defy anyone to go to a big city anywhere in the world that does host a big major casino, and as you say, have legions of zombies strolling the streets, all their pockets pulled out because they've lost all their money.
No, it's such a shame. It's a missed opportunity. And again, it seemed that the opposition was coming from the so-called progressive left. And I guess the way I interpret that, Simon, it's almost like the nanny state. Again, imprinting itself on society that, you know, because there are people that might lose their life savings or their home, which of course are bad things, we have to step in and protect you from yourself. Well, that's not the role of a
It's not the role of government, and those people in Toronto can get on a bus at any time 7 days a week and get a bus down to Niagara and put their money over the table there or through the slots down there. So instead of sending all that money and all those jobs out of this city, why not have a big one? And one last point, I know in Wellington in New Zealand, they've got a big casino there. They've said to the casino operator who wanted to expand their casino, you can do that, but you have to build the city a great big new convention centre. And you know what they said? We'll do it. So the city gets the benefit of this huge convention centre, and okay, the gambling operator can increase their size too, but there's a demonstrable public benefit if you define the public benefit and get the casino operator to stump up the cash.
Thank you so much again, Simon, for covering this issue. And folks, keep it tuned to Men's Mornings. More coming up right after this.